Within the business, you talked about people and culture and the internal transformations. Tell us a little bit more about what that was like and how you achieved taking people on that journey. And I imagine that not everyone made that journey successfully, so maybe share a little bit about that as well.
We've got amazing people in our business, all over the world. We've got amazing people who carry the flag of Western Union Business Solutions with great pride and great effectiveness. But we actually rely on them too heavily, or we relied on them too heavily. We didn't give them the tools, the infrastructure, the support to enable them to truly flourish. So that's why we began the transformation program, to invest in them. Salespeople are quite entrepreneurial in their nature, and give them a piece of paper with a few names on, they'll make a few phone calls and generate some opportunity. And that's fantastic, and we've still got that in place, and that certainly takes us to where we get to at the moment. But we found we needed to give them more skills, we needed to give them more tools, we needed to help them to identify who the right prospects and opportunities were, understand our clients' trading patterns and needs better. So that's what the transformation began with. It was, there's our people who are doing great things. How can we help them to be more successful? By investing in them and investing in tools to support them in their efforts.
What were some of the tools that you decided to invest in that had the biggest impact on them becoming more effective and efficient in their jobs?
First thing we did was we did a complete capability assessment of our frontline teams. So of our sales, our CRMs, our key account managers. We asked them to assess themselves against a benchmark of competencies that we'd put in place. So we took external guidance. We used a senior leadership team within Western Union to set what the principles could be. So, for example, closing skills. We expected a certain score. As a salesperson, they should be excellent at closing, so they would score a 4. So we asked all of our sales teams and all of our key account managers and CRMs to go through this exercise. Then we asked their managers to do the same exercise for them. Then we forced them to come together and have a conversation about that discussion, and they had to agree. We set the rules were very simple. There can be no compromise. So if I, as the manager, think that you're a 3, but you think you're a 4, we've got to talk that through and understand why and what. And
one of us has to convince the other.
Basically, yeah. And don't if you believe in yourself, stand your ground and show and validate reasons why. We also, as part of that exercise, asked our managers to assess their motivation for certain levels of their role. So, for example, we found out that a lot of our managers were really energized and motivated by closing the deal, the thrill of the chase, the sale, but weren't that energized and motivated in coaching and developing their people. So essentially, had been promoted through the ranks, great salespeople into manager, assume it's all going to be good. But if their motivation wasn't right, the results weren't going to be great. And so we were able to use that as a guide to actually move some people out of a management position and back into a frontline position where they were most successful and most happy. Yeah. So we assessed that capability of all of those people. And then from there, we invested in some frontline training for them. So we went a bit back to basics with some sales methodology training. But what we did is we did it through our managers, and we did a train the trainer exercise. So we invested in our managers and we gave them the materials and the product knowledge and the training stuff, and asked them to onward train the frontline. And over 6 or 7 or 8 modules over a 18-month period, these sessions were happening all over the world. We created great energy around the world through chatter within salesforce.com, just great collaboration on how the training was going. And then 12 months later, we redid the assessment, and we seen how our capabilities had improved. And we seen like a 5 basis points improvement on our capabilities, which through the provider that we used was above average. So great success. Not everybody bought into it. Some regions, some countries, some people just didn't engage. But when you're dealing with a global project like this, we sort of expected that.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And we'll the idea being we'll create the groundswell. If we'll get other people talking about how great this has been, and then other people will come and follow after that.
What was the correlation between that transformation in terms of upskilling people in the organization, and clearly that created a different type of culture, or it shifted the culture internally? How did it materialize in sales results?
Yeah, so that was the first bit. Sorry, let me come back to that question in a second, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because secondly, we invested in a sales process tool that sat within our Salesforce CRM system. And this was a digital platform that almost force salespeople to fully assess the quality of their sales opportunity and where they were in the sales process. So you'll know, dealing with salespeople, they'll tell you all the way, everything's fine. We're going to win this deal. We're going to win this deal. And then when we don't win the deal, it's the customer's fault because they're daft or they've made the wrong decision. Whereas this tool that we invested in, which Altify was the product that we bought, forces the salesperson to go through an entire sales process and answer pretty simple questions, but questions that they don't normally ask themselves because they get carried away on the crest of a wave of the emotion. And this is going to be my deal. This is the one, right? So this tool itself, we've seen through implementation, has increased our win rate by about 7% year over year. So again, when you think about the type of customers that we're onboarding, the number of customers we're winning, that's a significant uptick and one that a bit bigger than what we thought it would be. So we're very, very pleased with that. Again, not everybody's engaged with it. Yeah. Because it is more admin. Salespeople hate admin. We know that as well.
Yes, we do.
But the salespeople who were able to look it in the eyes and almost as a mirror, use it as a man in the mirror exercise. You can't kid the system. Computer says no. Computer says no. So what are you going to do about it?
I think it's really great to hear that at the heart of your transformation was your customers and your employees. It was really about, I think whenever we invest in upskill employees, we also help drive their value in the overall marketplace. And while we're not hoping that they'll take what we've sort of upskilled them with and leave, the reality is they will at some point. And I think as stewards of their career journey for the time that they're in our business, it's a great thing to be able to give to them.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it was it's a great point because it was a real, we did have some attrition challenges, certainly with our frontline people, right? Because again, a salesperson's calendar year, if it's successful, can they do it again the year after? Yeah. And again, we were relying too much on their goodwill and their sales excellence to keep them going. So by investing in them like this, we've got a really quality, stable frontline sales team, CRM team, key account management team now in all the regions, and we are well set for onward growth from here.
And you bring up another really great point. And in some of these interviews, we've talked specifically about sort of talent retention, hiring. It's hard to find great employees. It's a tough market. It's competitive from a wage perspective. We all know it's very expensive to turn over employees, and we also know that the number or the percentage of employees who make plan every year is not nearly as high as it should be.
Correct.
But so I think those investments, it sounds like this is what you've attested, is those investments have improved your retention rates. People feel valued. They're gaining something by being in the business as well as more successful in the business itself. So that's really fantastic.
For sure. And it's a great sales tool as well when we're recruiting. Because we're not just hiring another sales role, we're hiring a sales role that we're going to invest in and help them to thrive,
Yeah.
And I say we had a great team. We've got an even greater team now with great tools and capabilities that we've invested in on their behalf. So it's been great.
We should have had you participate in another interview that we did all around sales enablement.
Okay.
Because that's exactly really what this boils down to, isn't it? It's sort of equipping people with the tools, the processes, the support, and I think almost like the belief and appreciation for the job that they do. It really goes such a long way.
For sure. And our sales enablement team were sensational, and still are. They continue to carry the flag for this and make sure it's as effective as it possibly can be. So that buy-in across the board is massively important.
It's such a good story.
I think
but
so.
I'm thinking there might have been a few dark moments in there. And there may be some lessons learned or some mistakes made along the way. Can you share with us a little bit about what those lessons learned were and sort of so that anyone that might be going on this journey, they might be able to avoid some of those challenges themselves?
I think it starts with eyes wide open. Conceptually, this is definitely the right thing to do. But is everybody going to hop on that wagon and come flying through the battlefield with you? You're at the front carrying the flag, thinking this thing's going to change the world, knowing it will, but not everyone's going to be behind you. Some people are, using the rowing boat analogy. I was right in the front of the boat, the sales operations team right in the front of the boat. There was definitely some people in the middle of the boat with their oars in the air. And if I'm honest, there were some people at the back of the boat rowing the other way, right? So having an appreciation of that, and you can't force the square peg into the round hole. So you have to just accept what you've got, work with what you can, and make the most of what you've got, and as I say, create that goodwill and that groundswell. And I think that's worked well. You know.
Yeah, I think in these transformation times, you know that there are people that won't make the journey with you. They don't have a head or a heart for it. But I think there is always a way, and when you've gone about it in such a people-centric way, I'm going to guess that when you come to that crossroad and someone is clearly not intended to be part of the next chapter of your story, you can help them gracefully exit the business so that they can be successful somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing. And that actually builds loyalty with your existing employees as well, because it says we are actually interested in you personally being successful. It just may be that place for you isn't here, and you might enjoy greater success somewhere else. So.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. I think everybody has the right to succeed, right? And if this place isn't the right place for you to do that, then let's help you to find the right place that is. And by adopting that sort of attitude, then that's great. The other thing I would say is, and we probably didn't do this well enough at the start, is over communicate. The words transformation, it makes people nervous, right? Am I going to lose my job? Are we cutting roles? So we probably could have communicated better at the start to let them know a bit more positive about what the experience was going to be like, rather than people making their own assumptions, and then you get the coffee machine conversations which could potentially get out of hand. So that didn't happen, but in hindsight, we should have maybe communicated a bit better.
If you were to pick a better way to express transformation, because I agree it can be a very worrying word, and it's also change, and a lot of people inherently get uncomfortable or unsettled with change. How would you maybe describe then to an employee that project or that journey that you're going to go on without using perhaps that word?
That horrible word, yeah, exactly. I think it's about an investment in them, led by our customer needs. And trying to connect the two from the off. And again, we talk a lot about customer first. Our CEO starts every single communication with customer first, right? It's what we do. It's how we breathe. It's how we operate. It's in our DNA. But then connecting that back to the individual needs, wants, career development aspirations. This transformation was there to help them with that, and perhaps we didn't make that quite clear enough at the start. Yeah. So it's to help them to service our customers better, and that's certainly what we have done. And looking back, I think it's been a great success.
Were there external forces that made you realize that transformation was necessary? And in a time of a lot of disruption, new competitors, just the reality of how life has changed for all of us so much in the past 20, 30 years. Were there external forces, and what were some of those that helped bring this about within the company?
Yeah, like any business and any industry, it's a highly competitive space, right? Customer needs change all the time. There's a lot of customers out there who aren't that bothered anymore with that personal one-on-one relationship. They just want a service, right? They just want to be able to make a payment from here to here. They don't give a monkeys who it's through. We were very heavily sort of relationship-led as a sales model. And don't get me wrong, I'm not diminishing that, because we all know that in sales, people buy people, and that still exists to a certain extent. But actually trying to identify which customers fitted into which category was really important there. So I think, the external market demanded that we changed and we moved forward. And thinking through a salesperson's eyes, right? All of our sales efforts were done through the blood, sweat and tears of a salesperson's efforts. Cold calling, picking the phone up 60 times a day, door knocking, walking through networking events and going from stand to stand in exhibition halls. And again, we still do some of that now, but buyers don't want to buy like that anymore. They won't buy from a cold call very often. They want to buy from a referred partner or a partner that they're digitally integrated to, or that they know through somebody else. They want to buy from someone who they've maybe been building a relationship with through social, through LinkedIn. So it's just the sales we needed to transform, to try and make our salespeople's lives easier. Sales will never be easy. That's a given. But picking the phone up 60 times a day, certainly in the B2B space, I wouldn't say it's obsolete, but it's certainly being far less effective than it ever has been. So we've got to introduce those salespeople to different ways of selling, and that's what this transformation exercise did.